In 2006, a teenager from northern England used a camera he found in a cereal box to film his first ever vlog, which he uploaded to YouTube. What started out as a hobby began a serious career, becoming one of the first British creators to become a full-time YouTuber, a satellite of the Brit Crew, and one half of a creator duo which would grow a rabid fandom. Welcome to Rewind Time. This episode, AmazingPhil.
Yeah, it's rewind time.
Welcome to Rewind Time, a YouTube history podcast hosted by myself, Max, and YouTuber Lucy Livin. Lucy, how are you?
I'm a little sleepy.
A little sleepy.
I don't know.
It's because it's silly season.
You think it's because it's silly season?
Yeah, just too much in the calendar.
I don't know. Yeah,
too much work.
Right.
Too many social obligations.
Oh, we're just too popular.
Too
Is that
many
what you're...
birthdays.
Yeah,
both you and me.
Yeah. That's true. I don't know. I'm a little under the weather. So if I
Have some Diet Coke.
Oh, a little diet soda, a little caffeinated beverage.
Yeah, poke yourself up. The subject of this week's episode, someone who would not need perking up at all, given their disposition, in the news a bit recently, hence maybe part of the reason we picked Phil of Dan and Phil to cover.
Look, they were always on the list. They're an iconic part of YouTube and YouTube culture and YouTube fandom, I would say. One that I personally... I'm like, was I a part of the Dan and Phil fandom? I was. I don't know if I would call myself...
PH?
Yeah, fandom with a PH, yes, you now know. I don't know if I would say I was necessarily like what I would describe as like a rabid PH fan, but I definitely watched both of them, both of their content, and was like aware of goings on. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I mean, I knew enough about Dan and Phil through you that when I found a Dan and Phil tour jumper in the Lost and Found at Strike Bowling in 2017, I messaged you saying, do you want this?
To clarify, you worked at Strike Bowling.
Correct.
You didn't like see it there. And
no, I didn't steal it. I wasn't going to steal it,
You
even
were
though I
like-
worked there.
Yeah.
But I offered, I was like, do you or your friend want this? And
Yeah.
you were both like, we're not that big a fan. And I was like, yeah, good.
No, it was
not that we don't like Dan and Phil. It's more just
Okay,
that
all
wearing
right.
the YouTuber merch is maybe
it's
the
not.
line.
I'm not really a big merch girl.
Yeah.
I think
It was just big. It was big black jumper that just said Dan and Phil.
Yeah, at that point, I think I was probably in my early 20s.
Yeah.
And so I thought probably not.
You aged out of the fandom. Many people have.
I don't think I did, though. I've continued to be subscribed and closely watch both of them. And for anyone listening who also is subscribed to Dan and or Phil, you would maybe be aware of recent events, which, as I said, they were always on the plan. But I was like, I think it's time to bring Dan and Phil forward. Because there's been big news in the Dan and Phil
Exactly.
fandom.
But we can't get ahead of ourselves.
No.
The way we're going to tackle this is there's going to be 3 episodes. This one will be about Phil. Episode 2 will be about Dan. And episode 3 will be about their shared channel and the partnership overall.
Yeah. And the fandom
Yes.
more broadly, and kind of how that intersects with everything.
Exactly.
Because I do think that there's so much in that, and you've so far, just for everyone's context of where we're at, I've seen everything. Max has seen stuff on Dan's channel and stuff on Phil's channel and is up to date, but he hasn't seen the most recent video. A spoiler alert, because I think everyone knows, where Dan and Phil have announced that they are in fact a romantic
What?
couple. What? But you saw that, and that was sort of what kicked off the discussion about this.
It was impossible to go, even on these videos we watched from 10 years ago, there are Dan and Phil heads commenting being like, I'm surveying the ancient texts, or like, now that we know that they're a couple, this makes so much sense.
Yes.
And it's like, yes.
Yeah. It's been big news.
It also, it literally broke, it was in like mainstream news coverage.
Yeah, it's been a big deal for 14-year-old girls in 2009.
All right, let's jump back to 2006. Phil, he uploads his first YouTube video called Phil's Video Blog.
Iconic.
It is shot in black and white.
Yeah, I didn't know.
Very iMac photo booth aesthetic.
It's because the camera was from a cereal box.
that's actually much cooler
It's really cool.
than the reason I was going to say.
You were like, oh, it's like because he's being like edgy. He's filming
Yeah.
it in like photo booth. Nope, it only recorded in black and white because it was like
If
$1
you
in a cereal
are
box.
saying you can't be a YouTuber because you can't afford the technology. Phil did it with a literal free camera from a cereal box. This video, and I think it'll give us a good opportunity to sort of talk about Phil, his presentation, his sort of vibe generally. As you said in the intro, very lovely northern accent.
A
Don't see a lot
northern
of that.
lad.
Exactly.
I can't do it. You
We're
probably.
not going to do accents, but obviously UK media dominated by those Southerners, so it's great to get some representation here.
I'm excited for your input on the Brit crew being yourself, a Brit.
Yes, I hail. For those of you playing along and stealing my personal information, my passport says my birth location is Chelmsford in Essex.
Wow.
Yeah,
The
people
only
bet
way
you
is
didn't- bet you
Essex.
didn't think that exactly. Some would say the most culturally influential sort of county region of anywhere in the world, but that's it for
I don't
another
know.
day.
Zoella's not from there.
Well, we'll learn about that in the Brick Crew era. So he has overwhelmingly a positive disposition. Like this guy in these early videos, especially, there's one where he's literally talking about, and I'd say they're broadly story time is what we'd say these concepts are, right?
Yeah, I would describe Phil as like OG. He's doing, video. Well, you asked me this. You said, would you say they're vlogs? And I think technically in the early internet, you would call these vlogs like video blogs.
Well, he literally
calls it a video blog.
Yeah.
But I would say now, I think when we describe what a vlog is, we're mostly talking about people kind of taking you along during their day, and it's like a log of the day, if that makes sense. But yeah, he's mostly doing story times. He's sharing his experiences, and they're in like a comical, retrospective sort of situation.
And then it's a case where like he says that his big influences, and we learn this later, are Lonely Girl 15, which is a channel that began in its, in the videos we all remember is very much delivered to webcam vlogging style.
Yeah.
So these early videos, it is pretty similar to some of the other vlog type channels that we have like covered in this YouTube series so far. It's stuff where I think a lot of the appeal is that you can relate to sort of the mundane trials and things that like a young man sort of goes through when he's talking about things that are happening at college, things that he is getting up to. And it's very much like, it's not cozy, but he is I think a reassuring and like really friendly sort of camera presence, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I hope you don't mind me saying this and we can cut it out. But I kind of, I thought I wasn't sure. I was like 50-50 on whether or not you would enjoy Phil's content, like on a personal level. Like,
Okay.
and I think from the beginning you were a bit like, I don't know about this, because it is very like, I don't know. There's not much. He's not doing a lot of like self-deprecation. There's not a lot of like like it's a very straightforward. Like he's being genuine. There's no like,
I don't want to just do Man Who's Seen Dan and Phil videos, compares them both to each other, but
That's not what that'll be their third episode. Yeah,
they work as a duo because they have conflicting personalities
contrasting.
and perspectives. And Dan is like the edgy, sarcastic one, and Phil is the straight guy to that.
It's very
essentially.
much-
But he's also very silly.
It's very much like Black Cat, Golden Retriever.
Yeah. Also, some would say Lucy and Max. What do you think about that?
Well, maybe we'll leave that for episode 3.
But yeah, like, so we watched a bunch of these early videos, things as it's simple as like worst day ever, which is when he has this emo adjacent dyed black hair in the styling where you grow out obviously all the hair on top really long, and then you do a very straight line fringe that then comes around and grows a long way down the side of your face, right?
He has emo
The
hair.
Anthony from Smosh haircut is what I would say. Anthony from Smosh, someone who is a huge fan of Dan and Phil from the comments he leaves on all of their videos, even till present, which is quite interesting. But yeah, these guys are sort of like
British Smosh.
British Smosh, yeah, in vibes.
It's giving guy who's only seen Smosh.
I know, but the fact that they're literally friendly with them.
Yeah. No,
Like-
that people have been drawing that comparison, especially because of the partnership, the sort of two different personalities. There's one who's a bit more like, I don't know, happy-go-lucky, or kind of just like, I don't know how, gets on with it, doesn't complain. And there's another one who kind of is a bit more like traumatic.
Dark and edgy one. But all of this stuff is all like, he's humming along as a sort of like micro YouTuber. And then we get a video which has Dan in it. He enters the channel. This is in 2009. And the video is called Phil is Not on Fire.
Yeah.
This becomes a like ongoing series, essentially.
The sacred texts.
Yes, that the fans refer to. The premise is they draw cat whiskers on their face with Sharpie, and then they do a fan Q&A. So this one, I immediately said when Dan joined, I was like, he has basically the same hair as Phil. It's not dyed, but it's straight, and it's just parted the opposite way.
Yeah.
And Lucy was laughing because, do you want to explain what the merch?
There's like merch of just their hair, like a silhouette of their hair, and that's like a recognizable iconography of the fandom.
It's like if you had Dan and Phil, the Lego characters, you could easily just pop that hair and like it would fit perfectly. You know what I mean? Because it's perfectly smooth, straight. There's like no edges.
It was just so funny that you like kind of cottoned onto it like that. Like you were just like, wait, why is the hair so like that? And I was like, yeah, this is going to be a constant theme for many years.
There is like a sort of, by this time, so it's been 3 years since the channel started, the editing is much more comedic in the sense that like previously obviously like Phil largely does story time to camera, but this one requires like Dan going around and filming things in Phil's house, and so they obviously have to cut that together because you know you can't do it in one take.
It's a more sophisticated edit,
yes,
and you can tell Phil's getting a little more, he's getting a little jiggy with it. He's getting a little creative. I think by now, or maybe soon, they also start doing more of the classic like YouTuber like stock music for dramatic effect. That kind of early style of YouTube comedic editing that we have seen in a lot of the creators we've covered, like Community Channel and Smosh, and he's becoming a YouTuber, I would say, with like a TM next to that.
And this Phil is Not on Fire series, they sort of do one a year.
Pin-off.
Pin-off? What?
Yeah. Phil is Not on Fire.
Oh,
Pin-off.
sorry. Yes, pin-off. There's a pin-off each year for several years. Like we get up to...
I think it's like 11, 10 or 11.
There's a lot.
Yeah.
And it retains the same formula. And I enjoy this series. Like it's very cute.
Why do you think it's cute?
Why do I think it's cute? It's just like so low stakes. I think that they actually, a lot of their recurring videos, like they are like funny gags, and the fact that they bring them back and they have like such longevity and still do all this other stuff. I think that's something like quite unique to YouTube.
Yeah, it's very, and they sort of address this in like later content, but it's very much like for the fans, or it doesn't feel, even though YouTube and being a YouTuber is like, it's a lot about like yourself, it does feel like something that they got a really positive response from like the first time they did it, and they've sort of continued to, it's kind of like fan service.
Well, on that, a lot of the view counts on these videos are all like really good. It's like 1 million views a video.
Yeah.
But the stuff with Dan in it noticeably has more views. So I think the partnership was pretty immediately popular and people like the duo, right? There is a video from 2011 and the title is Spin the Bottle and the thumbnail is two boys going in for a kiss.
Classic YouTube,
yes,
thumbnail.
Classic matter. This is, I think, and we have to be delicate about this because naturally we now know that both Dan and Phil are gay and are in a relationship.
Yeah, it was interesting to go back and watch from the start. Like, and as we said, we saw lots of fan comments of people being like, oh, rewatching this now, it has a different meaning or it feels different rewatching this now knowing what we know. Because for anyone who doesn't know or isn't familiar with Dan and Phil, both Phil and Dan were closeted or were not out publicly on YouTube, even though there was a lot of speculation from other creators, from the fans themselves. And if you didn't like know that, you could go back and watch the videos and be like, oh yeah, like they're obviously, you know, they're out or they're together or whatever. But they strictly were saying they were not gay.
And even in these videos I made notes, I was like, oh, they're making like typical YouTube 2000s joke, like Shane Dawson talking about having a threesome with Hannah Montana.
Yeah.
Or
imagine if I did that, that would be gay.
They're like, Justin Bieber sucks, you know?
Yeah. So straight guy dunking on gayness as like like using gayness as like a derogatory.
But also like presenting themselves as potentially gay, but
then being like, haha,
like
it's
not,
funny because that would be gay. It's a weird type of humor that just sort of, I feel like, really existed on the internet for like 5 years.
Yes.
The haha, that would be funny, but I'm not.
Honestly,
but
you
funny?
say it existed on the internet for 5 years. You could go into many Australian social groups now, and the lads 100%. Are still doing those bits.
Yeah.
So.
It's a very like, it's a very hetero. Yeah, having haha gay be the punchline. Cue up the clip of Hilary Duff being like, do you know that when you say you're gay, like, do you know what you say? But it's weird seeing them do it. And in this particular video you're talking about, the spin the bottle, is that what it is? They're doing, is it a collaboration with, I believe it's
It Trip to Italy, Chris, Dan, and PJ.
So it's Kick the PJ and Crab Sticks, who are two, you looked at me with
crazy law.
You looked at me with such concern. This is, everyone, obviously the concept of this podcast is that I know a lot of YouTubers, but we're entering like an era or a subsection of a group of YouTubers like the Brit Crew / Satellite Brit Crew. And I watched a lot of them. So I was watching being like, oh, well, that's Crab Sticks and Kick the PJ. Max was like, sorry. So yeah, they're with two other YouTubers who, to my knowledge, are straight. So they're sort of making fun of, there's some nuance there. There's a bit of weirdness in retrospect, but for the time, you're like, yeah, sure.
Yeah, I just more wanted to point out how there are obviously people are like, you're queer baiting, like with your content, because you are like two straight men who, or not even straight, you're two not gay individuals who often present as if you're gay, but you're not gay. But in hindsight, of course, they are gay. So it's interesting to bring that context to it and see why people at the time maybe thought this.
This was also the time where fandom and fan fiction around YouTubers started to become a thing, and YouTubers often would interact with that because even though some of it is, I would say, like parasocially quite inappropriate, like people are writing fan fiction about real people and projecting things onto their real lives.
Yep.
Equally, if you're a YouTuber and your currency is your fandom, playing into that and giving a bit of fuel to that. And I'm not saying that's what Dan and Phil did, but I'm saying generally YouTubers would sometimes be like, oh, let's read fan fiction and like do stuff. They do that a couple of times over the course of the channel on each of their channels.
It just does numbers.
It just
the fan gets to point and be like, that's me.
That's my fanfic about them being a gay vampire,
Yeah.
you know, and then they get to be like, haha, this is silly. But equally, you know, it's like feeding the beast a little bit. You know what I mean?
All right. I want to briefly indulge me and talk about one of my favorite niche videos, which is A Day in the Life of Phil and Dan, which was released in 2012.
This is one of your favorite videos?
And is pretty much a normal vlog from them. However, there's a few things from this that I think are just iconic. The first one is that it opens with just a prolonged discussion of cereal, and it's shot by, I believe, Dan in first person. And I was like, this is just Peep Show, which is the Channel 4 first person perspective comedy show, which features like very much a similar vibe. And I was like, they've accidentally just created Peep Show. Like, this is so funny. The rest of the video, they go to lunch at Starbucks, which I was like, didn't think any English people went to Starbucks. I guess they don't have much
not
coffee
Costa
culture.
Coffee. No, but there's like Costa Coffee. There's Brett. For context,
Chain coffee, I guess. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. the worst coffee I've ever had in my life was in Heathrow. So
The Heathrow Airport where we were so jet lagged and we were there for like 3 hours.
anyway, one of them puts the iPhone on the table and it has just the most purple case. And I was like, oh, okay, guys.
Oh, wow. You're really entering your...
The highlight of this, they go to a chain. Well, I didn't know it was a chain, but they're like, we got to get milkshakes. I'm like, after you just had like a Starbucks, like frappe, but crazy. Okay. They're like, we got to get a milkshake. We got to go to Shake Away. And they go to this like weird, like milkshake only location, restaurant, something, I guess fast casual thing. And there's this huge menu in like what looks like Comic Sans, and it has all the like milkshake flavors. And I'm like, okay.
They categorize it into like chocolatey and sweetie.
Yeah.
Sweetie is its own category. And I know that it's like British, like sweetie, but I was like, what do you mean sweetie?
Yeah. And I was like,
so strange.
What in the like small town? And then you go and Google Shakeaway. And while it has a website that looks like it's like 20 years old, they're like, we are the world's largest milkshake company with like 200 stores. Like, look at this website.
Yeah, we gotta, next time we go to the UK, we must go to Shake Away.
I haven't had a milkshake in so many, since we probably went to, what was it? The beach in Cairns, around there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love a milkshake. Maybe
Milkshake
milkshake
by the
tonight.
beach, but couldn't do it now.
I'd
Sorry,
love to...
that was just my...
So you like this...
It was just so like inadvertently like really funny to me. And it was also just a fun like day in the life, you know?
I'd love to come back to your comment about the phone case. Could you explain that?
Oh, straight men have purple cases. I don't know what to tell you.
It's funny that we're like, you know, it's really bad that, you know, straight men have this culture of like pointing at things and being like, that's gay. And then you're watching this video being like, that phone case is purple.
Because when we talk about Dan, there's a lot of stuff to break down there. Okay, so that's kind of the early era of AmazingPhil. After the boys get a call from the BBC and start doing work for Radio 1, which is like the main pop radio station in the UK, they move to London, they do their radio show, and they start doing some sort of mainstream media. And this is posted on Phil's channel. Some canonical stuff is they meet One Direction, which for like online girls of fans of British men, this is like, you know, the Beatles meeting Elvis, I guess. One Direction sort of, it's much like when our YouTubers meet like Weezer, and Weezer kind of like, oh, what's going on? They're giving a what's happening vibe.
But the thing is that One Direction are like the same age / younger than Dan and Phil. It's a bit different when like you're showing Fred with Weezer. Like that is really weird.
But the actual thing, and this is what I wanted to draw from this, is that because we only see Dan and Phil for the most part filming with each other and in their apartment, it's only when you get them in context in standing sort of with normal people that you see how huge they are.
They're freakishly tall.
These boys are so tall. And obviously 1D, you know, they're not super chads. But like Dan and Phil are so big next to them. I think they were just like, who are these giant men?
Who are these giant baby-faced men from the internet?
Exactly. What is going on? They both have very like Slender Man-esque like...
I think it's interesting though what goes on when there are collaborative things. And again, I really want to make sure we try and stick mostly to Phil. But obviously there are some important canonical videos that we can't ignore. It's really interesting what goes on Phil's channel and what goes on Dan's channel when it comes to like collaborative content. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's kind of like sometimes one will post like the preview and one will post like the full thing, or they'll both do the preview. I think it's kind of like we take turns almost. But Phil does seem, and Dan said this, not me, Phil does seem to love a SponCon opportunity. At least he makes his peace with it, because he's much more involved in doing like
commercial
ads
work.
or reads. Yeah, exactly.
Phil, much happy to just be like, yep, I'll take that check.
I think he was probably just like, bro, I got to pay the rent.
Also with the one, we'll get to that. But Dan does make this comment being like, yeah, Phil, like very happy to take a sponsorship. In the scheme of YouTubers, though, and like my experience, he's not taking that many. / they are all, like, they're pretty unobtrusive. Actually, sorry, I'm thinking about one of the later ones. There are a couple which are a bit random.
Well, it's hard when you're a comedy YouTuber. Like, it's different when you're a product review / product impressions person.
If you're a lifestyle creator, there's a lot more speaking as someone who is one. There's a lot more leeway in terms of you have a much broader scope to talk about commercial goods and services.
Yep.
Goods and services. Whereas if you're talking about like embarrassing things that have happened to you in your life or reading your MSN chat like stuff, you kind of have to do the traditional YouTuber like, and now thank you to our sponsors, 90-second ad read. But yeah, Phil, I think, I don't know if you want to talk about this now, but also something to mention while we're talking about kind of the overall themes or recurringness on Phil's channel is he's a very consistent YouTuber for the most part.
Yes.
Yeah, he's uploading, and obviously it kind of changes. I would say it actually just changes with the meta of YouTube. Like in the early days, he's sort of doing like those like weekly uploads where there's that time on YouTube where everyone's like, I upload every Wednesday at
Sexual
5.
Wednesdays.
Yeah, Sexual Wednesdays. I upload every Wednesday at 5 p.m. PST or whatever. He's doing that. And then kind of when that era of YouTube, people stopped doing that, he's still consistently uploading pretty often. And I've noticed that as I am, in fact, an AmazingPhil subscriber. I would be like, wow, another Phil video. Like he's very, steady Eddie.
Bit like Justine in that way. No?
Yeah, no, sure. Sorry,
Who else do we have that's still pumping out stuff from the 2000s?
Phil and Justine, I was like, yeah, but no, I know what you mean. He's very just like, he just keeps it going, which I think is actually quite an admirable quality when we, or just like an interesting point of difference, because a lot of YouTubers, including some who are potentially in a partnership with Phil, are more of your typical kind of angsty, creative, less consistent sort of.
Why I haven't been posting?
Yeah.
I explain all type stuff. You
We
don't really
don't get as
no.
much of that from Phil. We still do get it occasionally, but he's just, I'd say, very even keel.
I think that is a really accurate characterization of him. And speaking of the partnership he has with Dan, we get to sort of see Phil in different one-on-one contexts once they become sort of mainstream popular YouTubers post our 2013 British YouTuber boom.
The British invasion.
Exactly.
And again,
They did it again.
can't stop invading, and they have to do it with YouTube.
So the first one I wanted to talk about is his Phil Learns to Sing, which is a video with Carrie Hope Fletcher.
This was crazy.
I was like, I
seeing
have no
this.
idea who any of these people are. And then you're
And
like,
I'm like pointing, being like,
yeah.
Carrie Hope Fletcher.
Can you tell us about Carrie Hope Fletcher?
Carrie Hope Fletcher was originally a YouTuber,
Yes.
and she is a singer. But currently, right now, she is a performer on the West End. She's a musical theatre performer. So that was like her dream when she started doing YouTube, and I used to be subscribed and watched her. I think she still uploads, but not as much. But I definitely remember watching her videos at a time. And now she's achieved her dream. She's recently, if anyone's familiar with Bad Cinderella, she originated the role of Bad Cinderella.
The British Darren Criss, they call her.
We will do an episode on her because we then get to talk about crazy Andrew Lloyd Webber tea, which if I didn't already have interests in YouTube, I also majored in musical theatre because I was very cool in high school. Anyway,
okay.
the collaboration with Phil and Carrie though,
It does exactly what it says on the tin. I will say a lot of Phil's videos, there is not like the clickbait misleading element here. It's like he is literally just going to try and sing. And
It's a cute collaboration.
He's kind of pretty good by the end, you know?
Yeah, he's really
Hitting
bad
some
at the
notes.
start. No offense.
But like he probably has never tried to
No,
sing.
exactly. It's exactly. And that'll come handy later on for their live tours. But it's pretty wholesome. I really enjoyed this one. Another one was with Louise Sprinkle of Glitter.
Yes, they play charades in this video, although Phil calls it charades, which I think is just a cultural thing, or maybe we're bumpkins here. I don't know.
I don't think British people call charades charades. I think
I feel like he wouldn't have made it up.
No, but like charades is a game, and having it like a charade is like.
But that just gives dance, you know.
I don't know.
Anyway,
it is. Anyway,
they play it, and they are actually like enacting YouTubers, which is quite funny. Like they do Smosh again.
yeah, they're doing impressions of.
But who is this woman?
Louise Sprinkle of Glitter, also, I would say a member of the OG Brick crew, was sort of famously Zoella's best friend, past tense.
Rip.
AKA Zoella, AKA Chummy. They would call each other chummy. We can get into it.
We've context for Zoella, right, on this podcast before.
She's come up.
Okay.
I think I've talked, because I was a Zoella
Yeah.
watcher and subscriber.
For reference, correct me if I'm wrong, Zoella, sort of the pioneer of the lifestyle influencer.
I think she is the most iconic BritTube. When I
There you
think of
go.
BritTube, I'm like, Zoella is like the queen of BritTube. And then you have Alfie Days, who's sort of like the default married in king of BritTube. And then you have like kind of all of the people around it. And I would say Dan and Phil are like benefactors of
Yep.
BritTube, but they're sort of, I wouldn't say they're like they're friends with everyone, but they're kind of like a bit on their own. Like they're not doing as many, like all of the BritTube people vlogged, like would do daily and like weekly vlogs together and would feature each other and be these like really frequent collaborators. But Dan and Phil kind of keep to themselves, and we do have
Their
some
content is quite different.
and it's different. It's not like lifestyle. Like, can you imagine if Phil was just like, "Hey guys,
Well,
this
no,
is
can
what
you
I got
imagine-
at Primark."
Can you imagine Dan like filming a vlog in public? I think he would like self-immolate, like it would be all over.
Yeah, they do it like once every 5 years as a treat. But so Louise, Sprinkle of Glitter, was in that core group. And her episode will be really interesting because she has sort of
she gets
since-
one as well.
Of course she gets one.
Oh.
She's since... You're just like, please.
There's just so many characters in this Brit crew.
That's why YouTube is so fun. But she has since actually reflected on, like, and actually sort of done, not like a tell-all per se, but she's since kind of come back to social media and been, like, talking about her experiences as being part of, like, the Brit crew and how that made her feel and
she's in her
all
legacy era.
the dynamics. She's in her legacy era and she's very cute. So, and I loved that Louise, who I was familiar with through Zoella, would collaborate with Dan and Phil because they seem to be very like genuine friends. And I think they've talked about like how they would hang out like outside of doing like YouTube and like work events. And they were like friendly, which I thought was really cute.
All right. Well, keep an ear out for that episode. The other collaborations I want to mention, there are multiple with Tyler Oakley, including on Dan's channel as well. So clearly they have a shared audience and they get along with Tyler because he comes back. This video on Phil's channel is the Miracle Berry Taste Test.
This is so funny to me that you haven't heard of this.
No, I was like, what? And they're explaining the video and I have never heard of this. It's a berry that you eat that affects your taste receptors so that things taste like the opposite of what they are, right?
Yep.
So in the video, they're doing things like eating an onion and it tastes sweet and they're blindfolded and they're like, I think I'm eating an apple. And the other's like, haha, you're not. And they're like, that's amazing. I had never seen this, didn't even know this technology was even possible, let alone you can just buy it on Amazon.
I can't believe, I feel this is so funny. This is where I'm like, for teenage girly pops who watch YouTube, like me and all of my like high school, like middle school friends who watch YouTube were like, we all just knew what the Miracle Berry thing is. Like it was like a trend among, like I swear girls in my class were like, oh, I'm going to buy it and like do it with my family.
I thought, I'm surely like, shouldn't someone in my life this would be a great Christmas activity.
Oh my God, we should do it with your family at Christmas.
Exactly.
Yeah, anyway.
Yeah, so I made a remark watching this that famously the Australian Prime Minister Tony Abbott once ate an onion, and maybe I didn't understand that he'd actually just eaten the miracle berry and it tasted sweet, and we all missed that.
No, I think he's just insane.
Yeah. And one final collaboration. This was a shocking one that really is not like other content on this channel, because the title is How to Speak Australian with Kylie Minogue.
Crazy work.
Kylie Minogue, for those of you that don't know, Americans, is like a Australian pop icon,
Yeah, you
very
guys know,
popular in the UK.
Spinning around.
You might know that song.
Banger.
But she's also famously a gay icon. Of course, Phil and Dan not out at this point.
What's that thing? Not gay.
Not gay. Or, not gay. Do you know what the fandom called Dan for a lot of his existence online?
No.
No homo Howell. Because he would always be going like, not gay. Anyway, sorry. Back to Phil. Just cool dudes things, having Kylie on the show. I'm sure Phil was like, I just love he's like me. He's like, I just love your
No, he's
your
like, I just
famous
think you're
pop
so
bangers."
hot.
Yeah. Oh,
You're so hot, Kylie.
but yeah.
It's actually really cute in this video. There's multiple kind of what I call like cut-ins, like of as he's interviewing Kylie and they're doing this little like, you know, a very YouTube-esque challenge, like a slang challenge.
Yep.
There's cut-ins to Phil clearly like fangirling, like freaking out that he's like doing a video with Kylie Minogue. And also shout out to Kylie Minogue, friend of the pod, Kylie Minogue, because she is such a good sport. There's so many times, and we've seen them where, you know, YouTubers are doing videos with like, you know, they're helping them out on the press junket for traditional celebrities who a large part of just like, who is this person? Why am I here? Why am I not being interviewed by Vogue? This sucks. But Kylie is being like such a good sport. She is a consummate professional. Also, I need everyone to know that Kylie was in Australia recently, and I saw that there was an event that like my mutuals went to, and Kylie was there, and I was like, I want to meet Kylie. I love Kylie Minogue.
But you weren't invited.
I was not.
Right. Oh, so
Maybe I
there's
just
no...
need to be AmazingPhil.
I was going to say, if you turn down the invite...
I'm going to start emailing people being like, this is a video of me doing a video with Kylie Minogue. Can I come meet Kylie Minogue? It's just a video of Phil.
But this video, it gives us a way to talk about the outro to AmazingPhil's videos, which is Draw Phil Naked, because Kylie introduces this segment.
This week's Draw Phil Naked is by...
Yeah. What can you tell us about Draw Phil Naked?
Draw Phil Naked is just like an end screen thing that Phil would do. And I must say, when I was originally watching Phil's videos, I remember when I saw it for the first time, I was like, this is like slightly not at odds with Phil's content, but considering Phil's content is, you know, while at times like touching on like a bit of cringiness, it's very family friendly. He's very brand friendly.
It was an SEO play, in my view. He was like, what are people looking up on YouTube?
Oh.
Sexy Phil. How am I going to get them?
Oh.
Draw Phil naked. So
You
he's
think
coming
he's
for Phil
trying to-
DeFranco.
Wow. Enemy of the pod, Philip DeFranco. That means that Phil is ally of the pod.
Oh, 100%. I made a note, best Phil covered on pod. Anyway.
We'll do an end of year tier list with and there's only going to be 2 people.
Fair enough. This sort of allows us to talk about, after these collaborations, the boys are doing live events, like they're touring as Dan and Phil. And we mentioned it earlier, they would do tours in Australia, they tour the US. Like, there was an international demand from the Dan and Phil fans to see Dan and Phil live. So
Yeah. You know,
Phil,
they came to Australia like this year, at the start of this year.
I didn't. That's
But
cool.
they were still touring like this year.
I mean, got to get that back, you know?
So true.
But this means that, like, we get sort of promotional videos, we get vlogs of them on tour. They came to Australia and vlogged that. They vlogged Adelaide, which is very interesting. For those of you that haven't heard of it, it's probably like Australia's 4th city. Not much goes on there, but
Shout out
the
to
boys
all
had a
the
good time.
Rewind Time listeners from Adelaide. We love and adore you.
They cuddled the koala.
I was born in Adelaide.
Wow.
So I'm one of you. That's a Rewind Time exclusive.
Born in Adelaide.
Lucy Liven, born in Adelaide. But yeah, it's cute. And I think, again, it's nice because Phil's consistency on his channel means that we're getting, I would say, more, how do I put this, timely updates about what's happening with Dan and Phil. Like, it's not soon after, it's only soon after they actually do the Australian leg of the tour that we're getting the Australia vlog on Phil's channel.
Yes.
So it's nice.
By, say, 2017, we get some updates from Phil about the London apartment that they have filmed their content in, him and Dan. They're actually going to be moving out. They're building a house together, the phouse, as they call it. The concept of 2 straight male friends building a house together, naturally, that's interesting. But I guess influencers now, they love a hype house. So it's actually not that far-fetched.
They're making the hype house for the fandom, PH fandom.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. No, this was, I just need to say, in the fandom, and again, I'm like, I watched both of them, and so I was like across fan stuff. But I wasn't, I would say, like an active participant in like Dan and Phil fandom blogs. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know how to, like, I'd be aware of like the discussion online, but I wasn't like.
Well, look, this is not super accurate to the time because Tumblr has changed a lot, but the Dan and Phil Tumblr fandom was significant. So much so that when I went on Tumblr yesterday, the number 1 topic was Dan and Phil.
Yeah. Tumblr residents have described the most recent Dan and Phil events as a Category 5 Tumblr event. and I would say that's pretty accurate. But when
What are other category 5s, just for my reference?
like hurricanes.
No, but like in Tumblr terms.
Oh, in Tumblr terms, might be the first recorded. Oh no,
Wait,
you know
what?
what? It would have been like the what's that show? Supernatural, the Supernatural finale.
Okay.
That would be like a category 5, like maybe a 4. Sherlock.
Did they make that? What did they do in the finale? I was going
Are
to
you
say, did they
asking,
make
do they
them
make
gay?
them gay?
Otherwise, isn't it just the finale? It's not really category 5.
I actually
kind of
don't
predicted.
know. I can't
Aren't they
remember.
brothers? They can't do that.
No. The brothers aren't gay.
Oh.
There's a third angel guy, and
Oh.
then one of the brothers is maybe gay with the angel.
Oh, then I always thought the ship was the brothers.
No, but people
Well, I
do
guess.
that.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to
Yeah,
the
look,
phouse.
we get the phouse. We're up to like Phil is on fire, 9 now, 10 the following year, but we do get a very timely update in this era, which is why I changed my emo hair.
iconic video, very important.
And Phil is like, I have had this hairstyle for 8 years. Why? And to be fair, we were both like, yeah, like,
Why?
what? What's? It's almost like he was like, I am a cartoon character. I have to look the same.
That's how he described it. He was like, this is like my kind of one iconic like brand.
Yep.
Iconography, and
Yeah.
I kind of don't blame him. Do you know what I mean?
The only thing is, his new hairstyles are so much better. It is such a glow up. It's such an improvement. You're like, oh, it is a shame that it took you this long.
Yeah.
But his hair now, spoilers, it's like he went through, he's like sort of natural brown hair, which is nice, but he's also had like platinum blonde.
Yeah. They call it flonde.
Flonde, there you go.
Phil's blonde era. His flonde era.
And he has like nice wavy texture. Like it looks so good.
Yeah, it does. It looks really good.
Call me no homo Max. The way no.
Not gay.
So anyway, naturally, as you mentioned, Phil is consistent on the channel. We are still getting content throughout this period.
And it's all very much the same or similar types of content to what he originally started putting up. He's doing story times. He's doing like, there was a one series which was like things I didn't know.
Yep.
Like he has a few kind of series, like mini series that he kind of comes back to. But pretty much always the same piece to camera format with some kind of, but obviously now with much more creative and what's the word I'm looking for? Like not complicated, but editing. The editing is more good.
More good. He also does something very funny, which is a full length video ad for the Shining, I want to say sequel, Doctor Sleep,
This was
where he stays in a haunted hotel.
It's funny. I kind of was watching it being like, this isn't really like what he's done, but there was actually a series of videos which I don't think we watched for this episode, but it's he does these like 3 a.m. with Phil videos where Phil has, when he can't sleep, he'll vlog the whole night of what he does, and this is actually like a riff on that. So originally I was like, this is completely out of place, but I was like, no, actually it's a riff on the nighttime sleeping vlogs. It's still very, it's funny. It's very like brand. And then there's a bit in the middle where obviously, and I get it because that's what happens in the brief, he has to do like the 90-second where he talks about
Doctor
the
Sleep,
movie
which
Dr. Sleep.
famously was a huge flop, not in small part due to the marketing and people just not understanding that it was related to The Shining. But maybe, out of that flop,
Do you think
we got this
Phil
Phil content.
But Phil probably moved the needle. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Convincing people not to see it.
No,
no.
He would convince people to see it.
Okay. Closing off this late 2010s era, we get a very monumental video, which does come after the partner video from Dan, but we get Coming Out to You in July 2019, and this is the video where Phil is like, I am gay. It's very short. It's about like 5 minutes from memory. He opens and says, yeah, I'm gay. Haha, end of video. Like, does a fake out. That's funny. But he's like, yeah, I've known that I was gay since I was 12. I've known the whole YouTube career. Like, it feels really good to be able to be like honest and like be my true self on this channel. Yeah. It's like I would say, I don't know. I don't really have a lot of YouTube coming out to compare to you.
Have we watched any? on
No, we're
so
not
far
up to
for the
it.
pod? No,
No.
you're right, because we've been watching a lot of early YouTubers
Yes.
and they...
A lot of Shane Dawson,
Yeah, well, we've only done part 1.
but like him
Yeah.
in his peak hetero, as we described it.
Yeah, we haven't really covered too many. And I would actually say it's honestly also related to like the era of YouTuber. Is that a lot of, I think...
I mean, we just did Rebecca Black, but she came out on a podcast, you know?
Yeah, it's we haven't really watched many of the YouTubers who kind of came up in that like 2012 era when I think it was more acceptable, and I think they also felt
Fred
Lucas.
You're
right.
Did he have a coming out video?
I think he did.
Well, I mean,
Yeah, he
spoilers,
did.
guys. He is gay.
He did.
But
He
he
did.
did.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But I think some YouTubers have what I would describe, they would do a coming out video and it would be kind of considered an event within the community.
Yeah.
A celebratory one, but it would be like, there were certain YouTubers, especially, and I'm trying to, it's like straight woman trying to word this. Like, how do I put it? YouTubers would have made a part of their brand, and they're obviously like similar to boy bands, right? Or pop stars.
Yeah.
A level of your desirability is your sort of like ambiguous ability to be in a relationship with the fan, kind of fantasy sort of element. I think you sort of know what I'm trying to get at here. And so a lot of YouTubers would be presenting as straight and making like references about themselves being heterosexual. And fans, I think, uncomfortably at times like speculate on that, but then, you know, people be like, no, they've said they're straight. And so when these sorts of videos come out, people are like, which is a bit weird and gross behavior, but sometimes people be like, we told you
Yes.
so, like that kind of vibe. So I'm speaking about all YouTubers. There are a few on our list that we will cover who do have what I would describe as like YouTube events, like Tumblr category 3 or 4 coming out videos that were impactful in the community, both what it meant for the YouTuber community for like LGBT creators, but also kind of just within their own scope. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, I think people get what you're coming to it from, you know? It's also something that probably like it affects male creators to some extent, because I think that and you can correct me obviously if I'm wrong, there's like a performative element to like gay stereotypes relating to men that are not really the same with a lot of women. And so like female creators, probably there is more of a thing where they have their sexuality is ambiguous and maybe not as tied as closely to like the content that they're producing.
Yeah. I think though that especially in this era, and while kind of like they talk about it being like, you know, it's a better time now to come out, and I feel, you know, that this is a good, the world is more accepting. There is a YouTuber I have in mind who is female and was a lifestyle creator who I followed, and like kind of famously was doing like the boyfriend tag and like very like, you know, working with lots of fashion brands, and was very much this like it girl lifestyle, aspirational girly pop kind of token, like perfect picture of heterosexuality, like womendom.
Yep.
And so when she came out, it was kind of like a big, and I think she was expecting like, I'm going to lose some fans, or I'm going to lose like brand deals and sponsorships because I don't fit that mold anymore. So I think but yeah, I do agree. And also I think with a lot of, but I think with a lot of male YouTubers, they also have like a similar kind of concern of like, okay, well, my YouTubers think like my audience thinks I'm hot, or like thinks I'm, you know, have a crush on me, and like how will this impact them? If not that that's like what's important, just to be so clear, but I do think it's like an element of like any element of a YouTuber revealing like something about themselves that's personal. They go, well, how will this affect my audience perception and connection with me? And in some ways, it makes it worse. And more devious and annoying. But we'll get to that.
Yes. So post this video, Phil remains active on his channel. Dan is less active online at this point, but does still participate in videos on Phil's channel.
Yeah, occasionally.
He's also noticed like people can tell that he's like behind the camera, even if he's not a main feature in some of the videos.
Yeah.
But yeah, Phil...
This whole time they've been living together.
Yes.
And flatmates, obviously, and then now they're building the phouse. Also, Phil's content at this point still the same, but he, I guess, has a bit of a new lease on content and things he can talk about, where you can clearly tell that topics regarding like interactions he's had that, like, because he talks mostly about like embarrassing situations and things like that, where he might not have been able to talk about things because he's been closeted, he's now able to more openly discuss.
Yeah. Still can't talk about his own personal dating life for obvious reasons, but he can definitely do content as like someone outwardly in the gay community, like talking about his role in that.
Yeah.
So that's a new spin on things.
Yeah.
That kind of...
Not us talking about like the act of being gay being just new content. But
well,
hey,
if you're gonna monetize the coming out video, which one of these boys does, then you gotta deal with the repercussions. Anyway,
so that brings us mostly up to date. In terms of where AmazingPhil's channel, Phil Lester, his channel is now. He hasn't uploaded in about 7 months.
Which is a long break for him.
It's a pretty long break for him. As I sort of mentioned, while he used to be kind of like a weekly or like, you know, somewhat weekly uploader who is considered to be very consistent, over time he has probably become a little bit more sporadic with uploads, and they're kind of like a month or every few months. But understandable given that Den and Phil have done things like a tour, a book. Like they've been doing lots of other projects outside of YouTube, so they're still like active kind of across a few things. But yeah, the last video that went up on Phil's channel was a Q&A with Dan. And that people kind of described it in the comments as like a stealth Phil is not on fire. Like it didn't include the whiskers or the kind of general like physical camaraderie and like shenanigans and skit sort of vibes, but they are like answering questions from the audience. So yeah, but it's been quiet. It's been a little more dormant, but to be fair,
with the context of the shared video and the large update we mentioned earlier, it does seem that Phil just took a break, which good for him.
Yeah.
Deserved.
Very well deserved. I love Phil. I think he is just such a positive influence on the YouTube community. He's made like such wholesome content. And not always like wholesome, by the way, in terms of content. Sometimes he talks about things that are like a bit awkward or like a bit, you know, cringy. But he's just, I think, really like a true YouTuber. Do you know what I mean? Like it's sort of, he set out to be like, I want to make, you know, videos that make people laugh and make people smile and, you know, make people feel maybe like not as alone, like relatable content. And he has done that for so long. His first video was 2006. He's been doing it for almost 20 years. That is crazy work. Like, obviously not, like, full YouTuber for all 20 of it, but, like, not many people on this platform can say they've been consistently on YouTube for 20 years.
Well, speaking of 20 years, I do get a lot of feelings, like similar feelings to when I watched the Vlog Brothers for this podcast, where I initially was like, this sort of like boundless optimism from someone, it can become kind of annoying. But that's my own judgment, you know. It's actually good to be positive, guys.
Your initial impressions as we were initially watching Phil, you were like, I don't know how much I'm gonna enjoy this one.
But much like the Green Brothers, I do think that like the authenticity over time wins me over, and I'm like, oh, actually, he's actually just such a nice guy. And I'm like, I understand why you'd be a fan, PH, because like it's just nice to watch someone who has like such an enthusiasm and like lust for life. And like, it's just like, I can see why, like, you know, you come home from your day at the 20-something marketing girl factory and you get to watch an AmazingPhil video and just feel good, you know?
Feel good with a PH.
Correct, yes.
But yeah, I also think something to add to the boundless optimism is, given the events of like recent years that we kind of get some more context for, which we will cover at some point, I think that boundless optimism also kind of gets like extra points for probably facing a decent bit of adversity within kind of their own fandom. As well as Phil personally, some of the later videos I was watching a couple extra ones to just refresh myself. And
Extracurricular. I like it.
extracurricular watching. Because I did, and do watch Dan and Phil. There just hasn't been as much content in the last few years. But Phil has done like some story times. He's been going through it. He seemingly just keeps being like having like surgeries, and
He's nearly 40, He's getting up there.
but it's just funny because he describes these events, which I would describe as like, for me, a harrowing life event.
Yeah.
Like probably like the worst thing that ever happened to me. And he's just being like, LOL. So then I was like bleeding and had to go to the surgeon because I thought I was going to die. And it's like, he's so like smiley face emoji.
He does a Draw My Life back in the day, sort of similar to everyone does, but he actually has quite a sad life story. And I won't go into specifics because it is, quite actually depressing. But yeah, he's lost like a number of people close to him in his life at a young age.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe for him it isn't like, he's like, oh, this is just life event 5, it doesn't faze him.
Yeah, but I think having that sort of boundless optimism and just bringing a good vibe to the platform is just so admirable. He really is amazing, Phil.
Yeah, and that's it for Rewind Time Amazing Phil.
Phil Lester, let's go.
Phil Lester.
Phil fans rise up.
We're Phil House. Lucy, what are you subscribing to this week?
Can you go first, please?
Yes, I am subscribing to frequent flyer points, given we used a bunch of them to book a trip to Europe next year, which we're going to for a friend's wedding, and it cost us, I think, about 650 Australian dollars each to get flights there and back, which, given we're going in summer, seems like a pretty good deal.
Yeah.
We are flying via Dallas, which some would say is not the quickest way to get to Europe, but you got to go one way around the globe.
We had slim pickings, and it was the best option.
Beggars can't be choosers.
And we figured that a 4 or 5 hour stopover in Dallas Airport, maybe even selfishly, I was like, good content.
I mean, if they have a Popeyes, I'm gonna be happy.
Yeah, you just want a little bit of that. Get a little bit of those American GMOs.
Getting like 3 spicy chicken sandwiches and putting them in your bag.
Take them onto the next flight. No, like for real.
Better than any food you're going to get in Heathrow, I'll tell you that much.
Hey, not too much on my prep porridge.
What are you subscribing to?
I am subscribing to my Smize Dream.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Hot ice cream. Yes.
Hot ice cream. I recently visited, for those of you who don't know, Tyra Banks lives in Sydney now, and has opened an ice cream store in Darling Harbour, which is sort of like a touristy, I would say it's touristy kind of.
It's like apartments, heaps of chain restaurants at the bottom level, backs onto the harbour, recently developed. It's kind of like you go around Darling Harbour and it goes into this area of Sydney called Barangaroo. Is that right? Convention centres.
It's like convention centres. There's like a Ripley's. No, there's not a Ripley's Leadon. It's a Madame Tussauds situation.
The zoo's there, the aquarium.
There's a small zoo. There's an aquarium. It's a bit like if you are an international tourist coming to Sydney, you would probably go there at one point or another. And she famously has just launched hot ice cream, which is an insane kind of thing to do coming into Australian summer. Like no one wants hot ice cream. That's where you'd be wrong, because the store seems very busy. I recently went with my neutral Nate. Shout out to Nate. And we made a little funny video trying out hot ice cream. But for all of its silliness of like hot ice cream, which people were really ragging on it. It's not for me, but it's not as bad as I think people were saying. It is like actually sort of a unique drink because people were like, isn't that just melted ice cream? It's not. It is something different. It's not a milkshake. It's not a hot chocolate. It's something else. So that was kind of cool. But we ended up trying the ice cream and it was really good. I thought it was very much like old school, like Ben and Jerry's kind of vibes, like really nice, like classic flavors with like big creative mix-ins. And I really like ice cream. And I know you were skeptical, but I actually was like sitting there and I was like, I actually can't hate on the Smize cream. It's and very generous servings. So I think we should go at some point, especially because it's going to be getting hot. It's ice cream season.
Yeah. How much was this one serve just for the audience?
I think 2 scoops was like, I want to say it was like $10.
Something
like that.
Ice
but
cream.
it was huge
Yep.
between the 2 of us. Like we
Yeah.
shared 2 scoops between 2 people and we didn't finish
How
all of it.
romantic.
How romantic.
Shout
Wow.
out to Nate.
You're
Anyway,
so jealous. So silly.
that's it for this episode of Rewind Time. We are going to be back next week with our Dan-focused episode. So keep your ears peeled for that. Lucy, thank you for joining me. You can review the podcast on Spotify, leave us any comments. If you're a Dan and Phil fan, let us know in the comments on YouTube or Spotify. Subscribe on your podcast platform of choice. And yeah, we'll be back next week with another episode of Rewind Time.
Bye.
Bye.
Ah, oh, that's hot. That's hot.